Today I will be doing my informative speech on volcanoes. Volcanoes are often associated with explosions, fires, or eruptions, but do you know the science behind them? This speech will inform you about the science and dangers that volcanoes pose. I didn't know a lot about volcanoes before I started this speech, but my fascinations for science prompted my research. In this speech, we will cover these common questions. How do volcanoes form? How do volcanoes erupt? And what dangers do volcanoes pose? Firstly, let's discuss how volcanoes form. They form with tectonic plates. A 2018 article from National Geographic entitled Volcanoes Explained explains how volcanoes form, stating, "The majority of volcanoes in the world form along the boundaries of Earth's tectonic plates, massive expanses of our planet's lithosphere that continually shift, bumping into one another. This bumping creates something known as a subduction zone, in which one plate sinks under the other, as you can see here. This sinking creates the shape that we all know as a volcano. And once one plate is sunk under another, pressure and temperature rises, which creates the magma that settles at the bottom of the volcano. Now that we covered how volcanoes form, let's discuss how they erupt. Pressure needs to build for the volcano to erupt. In a 2017 book by John Fardin titled Extreme Volcanoes, published by Lerner Publishing Group, Fardin states, over time, pressure builds up in a chamber as magma builds from beneath. Eventually, the pressure is enough to drive magma out to the surface through a narrow chimney or vent. This magma is generally driven out of the main vent, which you can see here. It stretches from the volcano's depths to the surface, but as pressure builds, magma also comes out the sides, as you can see here. These eruptions can last days, months, or even years. I think the longest can span up to a decade, but these eruptions only settle when pressure decreases or magma settles at the bottom. Now that we discovered how volcanoes erupt, let's discuss the dangers they pose. Some of the dangers that volcanoes pose. 1,000 people die every year, and even more lives are affected. Cities are rendered uninhabitable. Ash can cause illness and burns. The ash specifically causes respiratory illness, which can lead to further disease as well. Two examples of the dangers that volcanoes can pose are the Tunga volcano and Mount Marapi. The Tunga volcano was mentioned in a 2022 article by the World Health Organization entitled Tunga Volcano, which states the Tunga Hapai volcano in Tunga erupted on January 15th, creating a tsunami that hit coastal areas. The loss of communication, limited initial reports, but the waterfront of the Tongan capital appeared to have been seriously damaged by rocks and debris pushed inland. There was also significant infrastructural damage around Tunga Tuba, Tunga's main island, and a 1 to 2 centimeter blanket of volcanic ash covered the majority of the island, impacting food and water supplies. This is one example of the dangers volcanoes pose. In this case, it created a tsunami which caused significant damage and damaged the city significantly. It also limited communications, which prevented help from coming in immediately. It also limited food and water supply, which of course affected the residents because they had to ration out less food and water. And it also created a 1 to 2 centimeter blanket of volcanic ash, which can cause major burns and respiratory illness. For Mount Marapi, it was mentioned in a 2023 article by the Washington Post entitled 23 Hikers Presumed Dead After Indonesian Volcano Erupts. It explained a recent tragedy that took place in which a spontaneous volcanic eruption caused 23 people to die and much more to be injured. This tragedy exemplifies the dangers of volcanoes and the tragedies that can occur almost randomly too, and this caused major death. Now that we reviewed the dangers that volcanoes pose, let's review what we learned. Conclusion. This speech was intended to inform you on the science and dangers that volcanoes have. We have reviewed how volcanoes form, how they erupt, and the dangers that they pose. Overall, I hope you learned something in this speech, and I hope it ignited your passion for science. Thank you.